Step aside male loneliness because the girls seem to be just as lonely. So it's a universal issue, according to V Fam. And how do I know that pronunciation? Because I dated a Vietnamese girl for nearly 2 years. And according to her, she has no friends. So let's get right into it and put her in full screen.
So I don't have any friends. Um,
Whoa,
for the
shocker.
past 5 years, since 2020, I realized I had no friends, not a single one. No colleague, an acquaintance, coworker, whatever you want to call it. I don't even have one single person I can say that I had a friend.
Although, to be fair, she said since 2020. So that means, with COVID and all that, with the lockdowns, it was really hard to meet new people. And I saw another one of her videos in my recommended feed, and you saw it too. You actually saw it too if you look closer, if you go back a little bit and you look closer at my screen. But in one of her videos, it says she's 22 years old, which means she was 17 in 2020, which would have been a really bad time to be in lockdowns because you graduated with lockdowns, right? So you didn't even have a proper graduation ceremony. You didn't have the prom or anything like that. And she probably went through the same struggles that a lot of young Asians go through in school, which is they just study, study, study because their parents pressure them to do that. So she probably lost out on a bunch of years, a bunch of childhood years because she was pressured into studying. And then when she became a senior in high school, the lockdowns happened and everything kind of went south from there. And not only that, but her first couple of years of college were lockdowns too. So you didn't have the proper college experience either that a lot of people get to enjoy, like being independent, going out into the dorms, having dorm mates and whatnot. These are all little things that we take for granted in our college years that actually matter a lot when going to college that she didn't get to enjoy because of the lockdowns that lasted well into 2022 for a good chunk of people. So that means she lost out on her freshman year and her sophomore year. And then by then, it's like, what do you do with the last 2 years, right? Like you're already so dialed in on your academics and whatnot that you're not going to start giving that up just to make up for losing out on a social life the first couple of years of college, if that were to make sense.
And I'm not counting those. Okay, so I graduated high school in
There
2020,
you
and that
go.
was the last time I had a friend because high school friends. And once 2024 happened, that's when
Okay.
like most people graduate because it's like 4 years or whatever. And I had some people, hit me up and was like, "Hey, you want to catch up?" And that
Sidebar, I like the emojis and the little slang that she's putting as her subtitles.
was only like two people, but after that, we're not like friends. The one other person that hit me up, never talked to them ever again. So it's like I literally don't have one person I can think of that I can say, "Oh, this person is my friend" or whatever. And yeah, it's crazy because it's now just hitting me in 2025 because you would think like these past 5 years you didn't realize it. And yes, I did, but it was never bothering me and it never really occurred to me how crazy that was because 5 years is a long time. That's like half a decade. And only recently started bothering me now.
But if you had friends in 2020 and you lost them in 2024, trying to figure out how that happened. I mean, these were high school friends, right? So a lot of high school friendships, they just fall off. But I wonder what exactly happened.
Because I would say from 2020 to 2022, even 2023, I was busy with schoolwork and I never
Okay.
really even had the thought of, catching up with friends and maintaining relationships. But even by then, like everybody was stuck in their homes and we had our own thing to do.
There we go.
And not to mention, all my friends I had in high school, they went to states, universities like UCs, so they were out of the city.
UCs, that's a California thing.
They didn't live here anymore. So I didn't have anyone to talk to anyway. And I went to a community college, and basically, community
Oof.
college is basically what it is in the name. It's a community college.
It's basically high school 2.0, but really, community college is not a bad way to start your first 2 years off because you can get all your gen eds out of the way for a fraction of the price. And then from there, you transfer to a 4 year school to do whatever you wanted to do for your major. But that's usually the ideal plan if you're trying to cut costs on student loans.
I
But basically, with community college, you don't get dorming, you don't get the college, you don't get the full college experience or whatnot. So it's one of those things where, yeah, you're saving money by not having to go to a 4 year school for the first 2 years, but you're also not getting the socializing aspect of college either. I mean, you can still meet people in community college and you can still have your little cliques or whatever and hang out with those people. But for the most part, community college is like a high school for young adults. You go there, then you go back home, and then you rinse and repeat for 2 years. There's no dorming, there's none of that stuff.
I stayed here at home, and I decided not to go to a state or university because I didn't want to waste my parents' like money because I didn't know what to do. So instead of wasting my parents' money and time, I was like, I'm gonna stay here and just do community college and figure out what I want to do. And I still don't know what I want to do, but I didn't want to waste their money either way. Like, it's not even just college, but also like dorms. Like, I didn't want to make them deal with that stuff. So I decided to stay here. And once you do that, you don't experience the college life.
Yep.
You don't make new relationships. You don't get new experience, and that's the sacrifice.
Yep.
You save money, but you don't get to do any of those things and make new friends. So while I was doing that,
She basically said everything that I just said earlier.
all my other friends, they have new friends now, relationships, all that stuff, experiences, and they get to explore different cities while I'm stuck here living the same old mundane life, which nothing's wrong with that, by the way. It's fine, but yeah, I got to miss out on that part of my life, I guess. And so, you know, it is what it is. And
That's another thing about college, though, right? Is that some people go to different states for schooling, so they're getting different perspectives on how people from other states live. Whereas if you go to community college, you're just kind of stuck in the same place you've been since high school, since elementary school, in that same general area for the most part. There's a few people that move around in high school, but it's so far and few. But yeah, that's another thing you sacrifice when you go to community college is you're not going to other states at the very least and meeting people that way and understanding different cultures because even though it's the same country, people, personality or the way people act in different states is completely different than what your home state might be. Like, for example, people in the Northeast, they act differently than people in the Southeast, or people on the West Coast, they act differently than people on the East Coast. Like, all those sayings about, how people in California are too chill versus how people in New York are too angry, those are true for the most part. And there's actually a saying, right, that you should leave California before it makes you too soft, but you should also leave New York before it makes you too hard. That's an actual saying, but
in
let's see what
2023
else.
and 2024, that was when like school was about to end. I didn't have as much schoolwork. So I decided to travel,
Okay.
but I didn't have friends to travel with, so I traveled with my family.
Oh, yeah, see, that's the problem. When you travel with your family, that's gonna limit your opportunities to socialize and make friends that way too, because you're just gonna be stuck with your family. Should a solo traveled girl.
yeah, I was busy during 2023, 2024, and I didn't think about friendship still. And now that it's 2025 and I have nothing going on and I'm done with school and my prerequisites and all that stuff, I'm like, wait, I don't even have a friend. Like, I don't even have anyone I can confide with. I don't have anyone to just talk to, go out for brunch, get a latte, boba, whatever. I have no one like that around me. And I'm 22, and I know it's common for people to be lonely in their 20s. I think it's a very common thing because I've seen on TikTok and everything, like, it's hard making friends as a young adult, especially if you're not working or you didn't experience a college life. Because it's like, where else would you make friends?
I got an idea for you, Run Club.
Yes, you can go on like apps and shit, but like, I watch way too many like true crime shit and podcasts, and I'm like kind of scared of that stuff. Like, I don't know, man. Like, and also like thing with online friends. I've never had online friends before, but I also have a fear of doing that because what if I get catfish? You could FaceTime them, but like, still, I'm kind of, I don't know. I just wanted to make this video because I wonder. I know I'm not alone, but it feels like I'm alone. It's it's difficult because everybody around me has friends, not just one, like they have multiple friends. My brother has his friends, my cousins have their friends, everybody has friends, and I don't have even one. The only person I'm closest to right now is my brother,
Okay.
but my brother has his own friends, obviously, and maybe I am the closest to him, but that's just because we're siblings, you know, by default. Brothers and cousins, family, whatever, are different from friends because like there are stuff you can talk with your family, but then there are stuff you want to talk with your friends. And also my brother, he's a guy. His attention span when I rant is like it's not great. Like I can talk about some like random stupid shit I'm thinking of, and he'd be like, yeah, like it would be like the fucking same three responses. And you know,
Damn, that's crazy.
I need a girlfriend to actually rant with, and I don't.
Basically, damn, that's crazy is when is what people say when they're trying to get out of the conversation. I feel like when you're just nodding your head and saying, yeah, that's pretty much their way of not even being interested. That's their nice way of not being interested, and they're just trying to get out of the conversation, and they're hoping that you finish soon.
Don't have anyone like that. So
So I don't think her brother sees her the same way that she sees him. That's
yeah,
rough.
but if you're watching this and you also don't have a friend, it's okay. It's normal. You'll find one eventually. It's difficult out here, okay? My past relationships with friendship in high school, they were never great. I had good ones, but then I also had more bad ones than good ones, unfortunately. And I had a friend who I was friends with for 6, 7 years, so a long time. But what separated us and what got between us was a guy.
Mm.
And she started dating this person, and all her attention was garnered towards him. Like, once a guy was part of the relationship and she started dating that person, it's almost as if I didn't exist anymore and what only mattered was him.
Yep.
And that's when I knew. I was like, yeah, she doesn't care about me. Because
That's everyone's first relationship, though, that they spend way too much time on their partner than their friends. I mean, if anything, just reach out to her. Just reach back out to her, you know? Like, you guys are a little older now. Hopefully, you can get the high school drama out of the way. If that's the only thing that ruined your friendship, then reach back out to her. Who knows? You could even laugh about the guy that she was dating if she's still dating him or if they broke up or whatever. Either way, you can laugh about it.
I've had friends who've had relationships and they still value me as a friend and they still make time for me. Yes, a partner is different from a friend, and most likely you are going to spend more time with the partner. And I understand that. Trust me, I'm not trying to get in between them, but that doesn't mean you push them off to the side. Your friend, I mean, your friend is there for you since the beginning, and not saying that this will happen, but once you break up with that partner, which she did,
There you go.
who are you going to turn to? Him? No, you're going to turn to the friend. But you only turn towards them when it's advantageous to you, which I find kind of fucked up. Okay? Like, it's just, I had more stories, but I've had friendships in high school where every single person should.
That's fair and that's understandable, but you also have to understand that that way of thinking is what's probably making her lonely in the first place. It's pretty petty. I mean, unless she did something malicious to her specifically, then I don't see then she should reach back out to him, or not to him, to the friend that ignored her for the boyfriend, the ex-boyfriend or whatever, because they can now laugh about her ex basically. So, like I said, as long as there was no foul play between her and her friend directly, and it was just her ignoring her friend ignoring her because of this guy, then who knows? Maybe you can reach out and see it as a rekindling opportunity. But the whole eye for an eye thing really does make the world go blind. So you have to weigh and see how dirty she did you, essentially.
Talk to each other, and I was never the person to shit talk about my friends, at least in elementary school and middle school. But once high school hit, I started shit talking about my friends, and
And now that I think about it, this is actually how this is actually a big cause of the loneliness epidemic, right? Is that so many people approach life with an eye for an eye mindset instead of trying to be the bigger person and just forgiving other people for whatever they did wrong, right? Like, as long as they didn't do physical harm, or they didn't like insult your family, or they stole your significant other or whatever, right? Or they stole belongings. And it's just little things like maybe feeling like that you were getting ignored, which is subjective, by the way. It's completely subjective. It's not, you know, it's like reach back out to the person, extend an olive branch. I mean, I feel like people undervalue friendships these days, and it's just going to cause stories like this where you get on a camera and you complain about being lonely when there are ways to circumvent that. And I feel like having a friend circle is more important, especially now, because it's one way to let off steam when you're feeling down, and you can just really vibe out and forget about all the bullshit that you're going through in life, whether that's with work, school, relationships, or whatever, right? Like, those friends are supposed to be the people that are there for you. That's your circle, your tribe, essentially. So I don't like this whole eye for an eye mindset just because somebody might have ignored you a little too excessively when they were in a relationship.
I did not feel very proud of it, and I still think about it to this day, and I actually hate that about myself because my high school friendship, everybody talks shit about each other. I'm not even joking. And it made me want to talk shit about everybody else because guess what? If you're not talking shit about the same person, they're going to think, oh, is she with that other person? Or like, oh, blah, 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 blah.
Let
And
me
they're going
turn
to
you
keep
up.
secrets from you because you're not joining in the conversation. So you have no choice sometimes. And yes, you can be the bigger person and not talk shit about the other person, but they're just going to, one, cast you away and leave you behind. And they start using fucking code names and you don't understand what the fuck is anybody talking about because that was literally me. I would say like 70% of the time, everybody was using code names and I didn't understand one fucking thing. Like, I was always left out of the conversation. And yeah, there's more stories with that. And
To be fair, if your high school was that toxic, then maybe it is for the better that you're not talking to any of these people. But even then, there's plenty of ways to meet people as a young adult. I've already said one earlier. There's Run Club, there's pickleball. You can go on meetup.com. There's meetup groups, so you're meeting a whole bunch of people at the same time, and they're meeting in a public spot, so that helps with the safety aspect of it. So you're not just meeting people for one-on-ones or whatever, you're meeting a group of people. Like meetup.com is still alive and strong, right? So that's another one. There's Facebook groups, even though Facebook is pretty boomer, especially since she's 22. To her, Facebook is probably ancient technology or whatever. So there's, well, that's another one, right? So there's still plenty of ways to meet people, but I would say the top two right now is run clubs and pickleball. And you don't even need to know anything about one of those two things to just start going. Even especially with run clubs. With run clubs, all paces are typically welcome, right? You could be a complete novice, and there are still going to be other people at that run club who are also complete novices. And then at the end, you guys usually gather at a bar and so forth. It's a good time. If you're really looking to meet other people, I would 100% recommend run clubs to anyone. Doesn't matter where you are in life. Doesn't matter if you're active. Doesn't matter if you're inactive. Like that's one of the best ways you can meet people if you live in an area that has a lot of run clubs, because that's what happens, right? You meet at like a cafe or a bar 10 minutes before the run, you chat up a little, then after the run, you go to another cafe, bar, whatever, and you chat up until you guys decide to part ways or whatever, right? And then you exchange IGs, then you meet up and figure it out from there. But yeah, run clubs number one for sure. There you go. That's the solution to the loneliness epidemic. Just go to run clubs, if anything.
Yeah, I don't have the best experiences with friendships most of the
Yep.
time. I do have that very few friendships I did have in
But that's just high school for you in general.
like middle school, elementary school, and high school. But most of them were pretty shitty, and
She tried hard not to say the F word.
maybe that's why I'm so cynical when it comes to friendship sometimes. And I kind of protect myself, and I'm kind of intimidated of making new relationships, if that makes sense. Like I'm kind of pushing myself off. And also, it doesn't help that I'm also the biggest introvert ever, and I have pretty bad social anxiety. I'm not going to armchair diagnose myself and say I have social anxiety, because I know people who do have it and it does really affect their day-to-day life. I don't have that personally, but I was always known as like the shy kid in elementary school, middle school, and even high school. And it's difficult for me to talk to people freely.
You just said you weren't an introvert, but if you're the shy type, then it makes you somewhat introverted.
Like I have to really get to know you, or you have to make the first move for me to actually get comfortable with you. It's difficult because I'm always so self-conscious. I'm always thinking like, what is that person thinking of when they're talking to me? Do they think I'm weird? Did I say the wrong thing? Whatever, is this conversation becoming really awkward? And sometimes like quiet people sometimes come off as rude or cold, but that's also just because we don't know how to fucking talk to people. Okay, like I have really bad social skills.
So the rude and cold thing is usually just RBF, or resting bitch face, as they say, where they just look cold because that's their neutral expression. But just because they have that doesn't mean that they're going to turn you away if you're trying to strike up a conversation. And that's actually why a lot of people are lonely too, is because almost everybody else is thinking the same way that she's thinking, in the sense that nobody wants to approach because they're afraid that they're going to get rejected or judged or whatever. Because let's face it, right? You try to strike up a conversation with someone and they're not interested in you, even as just friends or whatever, right? That takes a blow to your ego, right? But it's just one of those hurdles that you have to get over if you want to make friendships or get into relationships or just anything in life, right? But yeah, this is pretty much why there's a lack of people making new friends now, is because everyone's thinking the same exact way that she's thinking, and with the internet and with TikTok and all these other apps and whatnot, that's how they're trying to get their socializing in through a screen. So because it's easier to talk to someone on the internet through a screen, they feel like they don't have to go through all these extra steps of walking up to people in person or joining a club or whatever because they have the internet. So it's one of those things that the internet also impacted is the way people socialize because back before the internet came out in the 90s, 80s, 70s, whatever, this is how people met. They would walk up to one another and then shoot the shit, essentially, right? But then the internet came out, and then you had social media, and then with social media, people just replaced walking up to each other with being a keyboard warrior online.
So I come off as really rude because I give like the most dry ass responses, and I'm like, I look back at them now and I cringe, but that was me. And I'm being honest with you, I'm still like that, but it's a lot better now than when I was younger. I can't help it, okay? And
So here's one thing you do: you want to ask questions, and then you want to react based on how they answer the question. So, for example, where do you live? Oh, I live in New York, right? So now you want to react based off of what they just said. So, oh, you live in New York, right? Um, Crowded as hell over there, or something like that, right? It's hard to think about these on the top of my head, but there's ways you can like kind of break the ice just off of where just off of what people tell you where they're from, essentially, right?
I should really put myself out there, but it's difficult. Like, do you guys feel the same? Because I feel like everybody around me is so outgoing. Or maybe it's just because they have a lot of friends and they seem outgoing. But I'm so self reserved and I'm always stuck in my cocoon and I don't want to like explore. And honestly, it's probably my fault. I feel like some of you guys watching are probably like, girl, you put this on yourself. Like, you go out there and talk to people. As much as I want to, it's difficult, okay? Like, it's not easy to just walk out and make friends. Also, I don't even know where to start. Because I feel like the only way for me to make friends right now is through online friends or
Yeah.
reaching out to old high school classmates, but then they have their own friend group and it's kind of weird. And also, most of them don't even live here anymore. Like, I think I'm one of the very few that still live here. Like, most people, they're still out of the city.
That's another thing too, right? You got to leave home. If you want to make the most out of your post college, high school life or whatever, you got to leave the nest so you're not stuck with all the other people who are in a similar situation where they're just staying in their childhood towns, in their childhood bedrooms, in their childhood homes. Like you got to get out there and make yourself uncomfortable, essentially. That's what I did, right? I moved from New Jersey, New York, whatever, all the way out to Los Angeles 6 years ago. And that was one of the best decisions I've ever made, not just for my career, but also for just meeting people in general and really putting myself out there and understanding different perspectives. You can't truly grow unless you leave the nest. And I figured out a couple of other icebreakers, right? So let's say someone's from New York, right? You can just say, "Oh, damn, the pizza over there is really nice," or "I heard the bagels there are fucking bomb," or whatever, right? And then same with California, right? "Oh, California, the weather's so nice," right? I mean, that's a boring answer, but the weather's nice. "Oh, you must have really good tacos," or "Oh shit, um, a lot of nice hiking spots," or whatever, right? You can just go with that, something like that, off the top of my head, basically. But you know what I mean. Hopefully, you know what I mean. And you should show me some love for giving you some examples on how to get rid of all this loneliness.
So, but yeah, if you're friendless like I am and you're watching this, we can be loners together. Um, Friendship is not easy. People, I honestly think people take friendship for granted and people overlook it sometimes Because when we talk about relationships, I think the one thing that people mention first are intimate relationships, like partners, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever you want to call them, versus friendships. But people don't realize that is also a form of a relationship. And
Here's a hot take. It's actually harder to have a bunch of meaningful friendships than it is to get into a relationship. And this applies to both guys and girls, by the way. I actually think it's harder to have a friend that you can call a brother or a sister over someone that you marry, basically. And a lot of people underestimate the power of a strong friendship. I think a really good friendship actually feels just as good, if not better, than a relationship, in my opinion. Like, yeah, with relationships, you can get physical in the bedroom or whatever, but honestly, man, nothing beats having a couple of close friends that you can just bond with without any sort of vested interest or whatever, or without any sort of catch, right? Like, just pure friendship. You just hang out. You forget about everything for a couple of hours when you're with these people. There's no ulterior motives, like maybe you want to get it, maybe they're business partners or whatever. It's just pure vibes. That's it. Literally pure vibes.
in fact, I think it's one of the most important ones, and it's probably the first that people make besides relationships with their family.
Mhm.
And people overlook it because throughout your life, you probably make like hundreds of friends along the way when you're like kids and stuff like that.
Hundreds of friends. They're not really friends. They're more so acquaintances, but go on.
But ones that stick around are so
There you go.
rare. And I don't think people realize how lucky they have it
Yep.
when they find that true friend. And I still want to find someone like that. And I think people take advantage of that. So if you have a friend and they've been you through thick and thin, it doesn't even matter how long you guys been friends. Like if you know that friend has got your back and you got theirs, treasure them and appreciate them because you don't realize how lucky you are. Seriously, I'm just saying. So if you don't have a friend like I do, it's okay because you'll find someone eventually. It may not be now, maybe in a few months, a few years, whatever. But I hope you find your Killua to Gon, your Geto to your Gojo, or your Naruto to your
Oh
Sasuke.
God.
Actually, I take that back. Those two last examples they didn't end up very well. And also, I think Naruto's kind of crazy. Like he's low key obsessive with Sasuke, and Sasuke did not give a fuck about him. So never mind, scratch that. Yeah, but you know what I mean. Yeah, we can be loners together. Okay, bye.
We're all loners in this world. All right, so let's see what the comment section has got for us. Loneliness is addicting because it keeps you in comfort zone. It's crazy how this can happen to almost anyone, no matter what type of person they are. And the loneliness is addicting because it keeps you in the comfort zone thing is actually true for the most part. Because when you're lonely, you're not really thinking of anything else, right? There's like no emotional labor that you have to do on your end when you're alone. You just kind of stick in your own place. But that's also dangerous because when you're in your comfort zone, you're not becoming sharper. Like that's another thing. That's another reason why you want to be hanging out with people whenever you have the chance, is because these people are going to stimulate your brain because you have to figure out what to say, how to react, whatever. And those little things that you have to think about actually makes you sharper as a person. So true, going through this right now. Since the pandemic, everyone got weird. I mean, she graduated during a very unfortunate time with the lockdowns. So, especially if you were in high school during those lockdowns, that really had an effect on you. I mean, it had an effect on me, and I'm fucking 34, about to turn 35, and it had an effect on even my social life. Like things have never been the same since the lockdowns for me either. Like back in 2019, I was still partying a lot. I was still going out with friends, getting drinks, whatever. But now, even after the lockdowns were lifted, I'm just kind of doing my own thing for the most part. Like I still hang out with a couple of people here and there, and I date, and I've been in relationships, but I still haven't had quite the same experiences as far as going out goes that I did back in 2019 and the pre-COVID era. I'm 35 and I realize that it's getting harder and harder to meet genuine people. I used to have a lot of friends, but as I grew older, people just naturally fade away and we all grow out of each other because our priorities change. That's just a part of life. I now only have a very small circle of friends, but I know at the end of the day is that I would only have is myself. And that's actually accurate, right? So once you get into your 30s, a lot of people's priorities they do start changing, right? Where that's kind of like the age where a bunch of people that you graduated high school with are probably starting their families or they're getting very serious with their partner. And then you have some people in their 30s that are still just trying to live out the bachelor or bachelorette lifestyle and they just go around, date, meet people or whatever. So it's really a mixed bag of what goes on. But yeah, once you get into your 30s, those people that you met in high school and even in your 20s, a good chunk of them are now starting their own families, and that's kind of why those friendships start to fade away is because of people starting families and whatnot, right? They're having kids. They can't do the things that they were doing when they first met you anymore. I'm 23 and I don't have friends, and this seems to be a girl profile too. Maybe I'm exhausted by the constant rumors I had to hear from them. It was just exhausting in general. I feel ashamed, but in the other hand, as I told my daughter, you have to initiate constantly if making friends is important to you. People nowadays live busy lives, and social media is the go to easy friend. Yeah, I mean, I said that earlier, right? Social media makes it too easy to talk to people. And if you really want to make friends, you're going to have to be the one to reach out in the beginning. Like, you can't go with that mindset of, oh, if they don't reach out to me, then I don't want to do it. Because that's a lot of people are thinking that way right now, right? So, yeah, there you go. We just have a loneliness epidemic all across the board. It's not just the men, but it's also the girls, and it's from all age ranges too, right? It's not even just a Gen Z issue, but a lot of millennials are feeling that loneliness too, so to speak. Even though we weren't as exposed to social media when we were their age, like we're feeling the heat too. Us millennials, we're feeling the heat too. And it's probably going to be bad for Gen Alpha as they start getting out of high school, but yeah, everyone's just thugging it out these days.